In my research for this article, I was a little bit surprised to come across a whole bunch of companies that offer to write handwritten notes on your behalf. So it's like a marketing thing. These companies were arguing accurately that we are inundated with emails every day, so it's really hard to catch potential clients' attention via email, and that when we receive things in our snail mail inbox, it's hard to stand out because everything is typed, because who has the time to handwrite out notes? So these companies have machines that actually hold pens and write with the pens. So if you look up close, you can tell that the notes were handwritten. And a big selling point was, these machines make mistakes. So, if you have a double T, it will make the double T and cross it with one line, stuff like that, which I thought was really interesting. So the whole spiel there, the whole shtick is that these handwritten notes catch attention better than anything else. And I completely agree with that. But in the context of today's video, it's not so much how to use a handwritten note to stand out with your marketing. It's more like how to make a really elegant handwritten note that will stand out for somebody's birthday, for sending a thank you note to somebody for something like a job interview, or if you do have a small business and you have a couple of really special clients, how to make a note that will stand out to them. The methods we're going to talk about are fairly time consuming, so that's why they're not really suitable for sitting and writing a whole bunch of notes all day. The first thing that you'll want to do before writing a nice note is to warm up. So grab the pen that you plan to use and then just draw a few squiggles. And I recommend this for a couple of reasons. First, the pen itself might not be warm, so depending on what kind of pen you have, it might need just a couple of strokes to come to life, especially if you're using like a ballpoint pen where the ink tends to congeal a little bit. Gel pens, you won't typically have that problem. Fountain pens also need some warming up, which is what I'm using right here. And if you just draw these a bit, that also warms up your hand for making more fluid strokes, which always translates to a neater, nicer looking note. My second tip for writing a beautiful handwritten note is to choose the style that is your strength. So if you know that you're better at writing print than cursive, choose to write in print. It doesn't matter which style you choose to write in, as long as that style is something that you're comfortable with and that you can create a neat rendition of. My third tip is to keep an exemplar handy. So this might seem like kind of a hassle, but honestly, I find it a lot easier to write neat, nice looking handwritten notes when I have an example in front of me, because a lot of times I'll think, oh, there was that really pretty cursive G, but how did that go again? And I might be alone in this, but I just can't remember sometimes what the exact letter forms are. So a lot of times I use the exemplar from the Elegant Cursive Handwriting Worksheet, which is available on the TPK website. There are a few letters that I absolutely love from it, like the B's, the P's, and the R's have this really cool entry stroke. And then the G's, I think, are awesome, and the F's. It's all really cool. So I keep it handy, and I just put it to the side while I'm writing a note. I actually have cut this part out of the worksheet set, and I folded it and put it in my little phone wallet thing, so when I'm on the go, I can use it, which I know is really nerdy, but it doesn't take up much space, and it really helps me to produce beautiful handwriting. So if you're willing to do that, it's something that's really useful, is to keep an exemplar at hand. And you don't have to use the exemplar from the cursive worksheet. You can absolutely make your own exemplar of your favorite handwriting, and then just keep it with you, so when it's time to write a note, it's ready to go. Another thing I would recommend is writing with guides. So that can mean two things. The first is that you take a guideline sheet or just a piece of notebook paper, put it under the paper you're working on, and then use it to write a note on top of a light box. I know that a light box is a fairly esoteric tool, but they are available for pretty cheap on websites like Amazon. So just browse Amazon or whatever website you like to shop on, look at the reviews, and get the light box that's going to fit your needs. I really like using this technique because if you have a note like this, it looks really neat, right? That all of the writing is completely straight, because when I'm not using guidelines, my writing tends to tilt upwards. So if you have guidelines shining up through a light box, that really keeps you nice and straight with the handwriting. And with this guideline sheet in particular, I have slant lines, 55-degree slant lines, which help to keep my cursive at a consistent slant. If you're interested in using this guideline sheet, it's available as a free download on the TPK website. You can also write on notebook paper, which has guidelines built in, but if you're going to do that and you want your note to have a very elegant feel to it, I would make your paper choice reflect that. So you might consider getting a Rhodia pad that has like the gray guidelines, and it's heavy paper, so that sends a different message than just writing something on thin notebook paper from a college ruled notebook. The fifth trick to writing an elegant note is to maintain margins. So you can see on this note that I've written, there is a pretty particular margin around the outside of the page. I did not write all the way to the end. So for example, when I said little here, I knew that jumper would go a little too far over for my liking, so I put jumper on the next line. Another thing you can do is if you find yourself in the middle of a word and you're getting really close to that right edge, just hyphenate. Remember that you can hyphenate at any syllable in the English language, and that will really help your note to look nice and clean. The sixth thing to consider when writing a beautiful handwritten note is your materials. So of course you can opt to use beautiful stationery. I often do that, but I find that if I follow all the other tips in this video, then my note can even look good on like 32-pound laser jet paper. One of the tricks I use to achieve that elegance is using a fountain pen. So I typically use a Pilot Falcon fountain pen, and it has an extra fine nib because I find that extra fine lines just give a note a little more elegance because you have those nice spindly strokes. When I write with this pen, I like to rotate it over to the left a little bit so the nib isn't straight up and down, it's over to the left, and that helps me to achieve a fine stroke. You can use whatever pen you're comfortable with. A lot of times, if I don't want to mess with a fountain pen, I'll use a Pilot G205 pen. You don't achieve as fine as a stroke, but it still looks really good. So just experiment to find out which pen is going to work the best for you, what gels best with you, whether that's a gel pen, a ballpoint pen, a fountain pen. Like I said, I really like this Pilot Falcon, but it has a pretty high price tag, so that figures, right? But it just all comes down to what resonates the best with you. That's why there are so many pens available out there, because there's going to be a pen for every person. So just try everything you come across, and when you find something you like, stick with it. My final tip for writing beautiful handwritten notes is to not cross out your mistakes. So think about how many times you're typing on your computer and you hit the delete button, the backspace button. You can't do that when you're writing a note. And it's inevitable that you're going to make mistakes as you're writing. So instead of crossing out your misspellings, go ahead and write something like, oops, I meant whatever. So let's say you're writing out, thank you for coming today. But instead you write TDAY. So instead of crossing that out and making an eye-catching cross where somebody's going to look at the note from the distance and immediately see that cross, make a dash or something and write, sorry. I meant today. Not that this is a nice formal note, but you see how all of that text works together. Nothing really draws your eye like it would if you were to put a cross through that. So next time you make a mistake, consider just acknowledging it. I think it also gives the note a little more of a human feel too, which is part of the appeal of writing a handwritten note in the first place. I hope that you enjoyed all of these tips over how to make the perfect handwritten note. Remember that a handwritten note doesn't have to be out of the blue correspondence, like a letter to somebody. It can absolutely just be a short thank you note for doing something nice, for interviewing you for a job, that kind of thing. It's going to make you stand out. It's going to make people feel really good about spending time with you, about helping you. If you are a small business and you have a couple of minutes, always a good idea to write to your customers a handwritten note, just thanking them for their time or for letting them do a demo with you, whatever. It's always a good idea to make somebody feel special. And furthermore, they're going to feel even better when you send over a note that has beautiful handwriting, it's mindful of the margins, all of those sorts of things. If you liked this video, you might like the other handwriting resources on the TPK website. So I have several free worksheets that help you try on different print and cursive styles. I also have an Improve Your Handwriting online course. So that course walks you through how to find your optimal grip, your optimal paper rotation. It walks you through warm-ups and then several different handwriting styles, both print and cursive, and then we'll analyze different notes to see what resonates with you best. You know, do you like print? Do you like cursive? Do you like persive, which is print and cursive? The course just works to develop that awareness and help you come up with a few different styles. And then I have the Elegant Cursive Handwriting Worksheet, which is kind of my baby because I worked on it for about a year. It's super intensive and it will teach you how to create a cursive handwriting style that was inspired by the styles that they used to teach in the early 1900s. So it's cool, it's vintage, it's neat, it's great to use on your handwritten notes. Okay, until next time, happy writing!